Hey, what's up, everybody? It's me, Danae, and I'm here with a message for you. Happy Thursday, October 24th, 2024. Hope you are doing well today. Oh my goodness, happy birthday, Scorpio. I realized yesterday I did not say that. Happy birthday to all the Scorpions out there in the world. I have one in my home. So I am very well acquainted with the energy and appreciate it and love it very much. For its raw, intense nature. So we thank you, Scorpio, for your energy, helping us to all be a little bit more deep and sometimes a bit more mysterious, or adding to the mystique and mysterium of life, which sometimes makes things a bit more interesting. Like scary movie interesting. like what do you call it? What do they call those? I can't think of the word, but psycho thriller interesting. That's not the term, but like when it's like a psychological thriller, so to speak. I can't think of the term, man. It's right on the tip of my tongue, but yeah, it shakes things up a bit, and we appreciate it. We do. So yeah, happy birthday to you, and I hope it's a fantastic season for all that celebrate that their revolution of the return of the sun in this sign. So yeah, all right, let's see what we got. The Magician. Interesting. Okay, we're starting off with magic vibes, manifestation, creativity, hopefully not manipulation, which is that sometimes the shadow of the magician. Let's see. Okay, 10 of Pentacles, that's a good sign. Somebody manifesting abundance, or using their gifts and resources and talents to generate wealth. Okay, and then we got the Empress. Okay. Let's just move that on down here. Oh, come on. Now, come on. Now, come on. Now, come on. What? I feel like this should go before the... But I'll stick to this, but I almost feel like the 10 of Cups should go before the Magician. That's what I'm sensing. Because the Spirit is usually follows usually precedes the physical or the body, the manifestation. Let's see. Ooh. And then we got the 10 of... But, okay. The fulfillment, maybe this 10 of Cups is just like the total fulfillment. You know, like the bliss of all things culminating. The material prosperity, the productivity, drive, and purpose, the affluence, perhaps even in position and power, and everything collectively equates to this 10 of Cups energy, where it's like the spirit of prosperity that continues to live on. And I did say is generating wealth. And this is the regeneration of that legacy here with the 10 of Cups, where it may start quite material. I feel like this could really bounce back to either one, because I still feel like the spirit of wealth starts before the materialization of it, but it in fact can carry on as long as that spirit is preserved and prioritized, even more so, and it can evolve and expand and extend lifetimes, and certainly even outside of the confines of a particular bloodline or family line or specific group of people, i.e. a family. This is where you can get the influence of a legacy that makes has a a world impact, or makes a profound impact in such a way that life after is, there's a change in life in such a way that it could never be the same as before this impression was made, if that makes sense. Like, I'm trying to think of a family that we could look to like that. I'm sure there's so many, but just like off the top, on the spot, I mean, honestly, like, this is kind of primitive, because I'm thinking of something I'm thinking of something a little bit more deeply impactful than what I'm about to say, but the Jacksons are coming to mind right now. Like, what would the world be without the influence first of the Jackson 5, and then the collective bunch when the girls started to add to the act, and then branch off into their solo acts, and Michael breaking out as, the icon that he was and is. Music, especially from a family expression, they kind of did pioneer a path in that regard of what a legacy of musical artistry can look like. Even now, like, they still have kids, that are still keeping the legacy going in their own right. And it's not like it was the first time that's ever been a thing, because usually when you have something as as something like a musical talent or gift that gets passed down generation to generation, it usually does regenerate, or if you have a prominent, I should say, talent or gift in such a way, it usually does regenerate from the next and on to the next. But you don't always get to see that, especially in celebrity. Sometimes even still, you might have extremely talented individuals that get together, and their legacy may stop with them, or maybe with one child beyond them, or a couple, or like the Waynes. There's another one. Now, still, I'm veering more to the entertainment world, which I don't know why, but that's what's coming up. I'm thinking something more profound, like even some of the dynasty like families, like Carnegie and Rockefeller and Kennedy, and names like that have made a real well, call it what you will, because the impression, whether it be positive or negative, could be argued, but the impact that just the name alone, makes, and the weight that it carries has carried on for a very long time. But I actually think I like the Jacksons and even the Wayans example a lot more, because there's something a bit more upbeat and sensational about it. Like I said, it's kind of questionable. The other ones that I named off, like how great of an impact they actually made, definitely revolutionary for sure, and changed the way that we live in a lot of ways, and the change and pioneered society in different regards. But for better or for worse, it's still a question mark, especially in hindsight, But at this point in time, there's not much you can say about a Wayans or a Jackson that wouldn't be celebratory, or that wouldn't be honorable, I would say. Even Michael, facing some of the trials and tribulations that he did, and the scrutiny and persecution, at this point in time, you usually veer more into his talent and his music and his iconic image more than you do the other things. But anyway, we got the Ten of Swords here, which I feel like, given all of that, it brings something to an end. This regeneration of wealth in bliss is what I see brings some type of struggle and despair to a finality. So again, like, there's the way that I was, I can't say necessarily that the Jacksons or the Wayans have done anything that I know of that's so profound that they have brought any particular, struggle or stress to an end, so that there's a closing of a cycle that's been quite unfavorable, and life ultimately has changed and shifted in a way that is pivotal for the rest of however long, maybe perhaps forever, eternity. So I can't necessarily build the case for that there, other than, of course, Michael's iconic status more or less setting the tone for what other artists would aspire to for the rest of their lives. Even to this day, still being a topic of, an image of contrast or comparison, you know what I mean? Or again, just aspiration overall. But there's something to be said that I'm trying to get to here, and it'll come together, about there being such an impression made through this regeneration of the spirit of prosperity, not just the wealth itself, not riches, not money, but more so the spirit that carries on and ultimately eliminates what is that? The Ten of Swords. It almost don't want me to pick nothing else up. That's weird. The Ten of Swords is betrayal, it's sabotage. Sometimes I can see it as self-sabotage. but despair, maybe it just puts an end to bad endings. There's something about the example, because I said that earlier about the Jacksons, like being the example, the public display of what it could look like for a entire family, to prosper. For the Wayans, an entire family just about to be extremely, it's 10 of them, 10 siblings. And it's said by all the brothers that the best, and the sister, that they're just the few of all the funny. Everybody in the house was a comedian or expressive in some amazing way, and now their kids are doing it. Damon Wayans and his son now have a new show. I watched the pilot, or I should say like the premiere yesterday, and it was pretty funny, but it's more interesting to just seeing them work together. LeBron and his son playing on the same team, something that's never been done before. And certainly LeBron has definitely, love him or hate him, has definitely changed sports for the player, in similar but even more dynamic ways than that Jordan did, and then Jordan did. So yeah, like something about that, but just on a more, there's something more like, that I'm trying to get to here, and I feel it, but I don't feel like I'm really getting to it, but it's something that brings an end to suffering, maybe. That's maybe what this 10 of Swords is. Suffering. When you see a family or a soul tribe or a soul group, it could even be that with the 10 of Cups. Like I said, it doesn't have to be blood relation, but there's definitely this collective movement of excellence and success and fulfillment and prosperity and productivity and power and authority and position, empowerment. Maybe it's the movement itself that's on the rise, that is about to sweep the nation or the globe in such a way that even if it doesn't in one swoop eliminate suffering, it's so profound and pronounced as a potential reality that it enhances, how can I say this? Like, it's so prominent that it overpowers the shadow of suffering to just that, a mere shadow. Like, not something that is the prominent force or projection as it feels it is now, like where maybe it dispels even the myth or the ideal that is the prominent reality, despair and struggle and strife and suffering and misfortune. It seems to be like it seems to be most prevalent, more so than it is this beautiful energy here of unlimited wealth and abundance and happiness and peace and all, plenty of positions and space for everyone to manifest whatever you like. Like, that's the concept, but it seems more fantastical, more even as it is projected to be a limitless possibility is still with a hint of exclusivity, you know? So it still leads to more of the, how can I say it? Like, it still leads you to more of the conception of what seems most prevalent, which is the Ten of Swords, than it does to the aspiration of something so much more, and like really the complete opposite. So it's something about how this movement is about to expand in such a way that it will literally, as it, like, this wouldn't even let me get to anything else when I was trying to lift up this card. Like, completely, it's like it doesn't even want to be confirmed in this moment, because the point is that this is, as it says, a 10, a completion, the close of a cycle that seems inevitable. Like there's an inevitability of struggle and upheaval and even strife and what did I say? What was the word I used? Suffering that is just really like, how can I say, like just a part of life, you know, like you can't not have life without this in some form. That's what's breaking. That's what I needed to get to. Thank you. Because that's such a, wow, that's such a far out consideration, you know, to imagine that that's what's being broken here, to eliminate this this is like par for the course, or like, you know, just a part of the experience, you know, the human experience is the suffering. Maybe not so, you know, maybe that's exactly what's being broken, but it would need to be exemplified in order for it to overshadow this, you know, because this is a deep conditioning that is so well rooted in our reality that we ultimately help to facilitate it and perpetuate the concept ourselves. You know, even when I'm thinking now in terms of me highlighting celebrity cases, the concept of celebrity is the projection that it is exclusive and that only a few are privy to this experience of fame and fortune. And even so, it was set up so that you can only acquire that, because if you consider even the Jacksons, through a great deal of hard work and even struggle and great sacrifice, and like I said about Michael, some huge blows to your spiritual wellness and satisfaction to have that experience, when perhaps it gets to be proven that that doesn't have to be the way. And maybe it's important that we had those spectacles to refer to and those examples to inspire us to know what is possible even with constraints, so that there is, you know, a reference point of a so-called ideal, but the true, which is why I said the 10 of Cups is strange that we're getting that on the back end, but it could very much so come on the front end, is to break the stigma that there needs to be a sacrifice or downtrodden moment or struggle or suffering in order to have this. This is what's being eliminated. And that is fantastical indeed. And it is hard to conceive. So again, it would need to be pronounced by example, by those that achieve this reality or assume it, and again assert it in a regenerative state, meaning it may not even happen in the breath of life, or at least, like, say, for me or you, if you can relate, where you've already experienced some level of suffering or struggle in such a way that there's no way to kind of curb that experience for yourself, where it almost seemed like a necessary evil. That's the term I was trying to kind of get to, where it's almost a necessary evil in the experience of life, even and especially if you aspire to anything greatly fulfilling, right? We might not have that luxury, but because of the conclusion and closure of the ascription to this needing to be a thing at all, meaning, like, if we eliminate this from our life's experience in the sense of how we pass it down or pass it forward to our children, it could very well be that instead of us passing on this ideal that, you got to do this and that, and you go through this and that before you can have this and that, it won't even be a reality for the generation forward. Like, we curb that learning experience for them. And where it is, we probably have more or less, again, been conditioned and then groomed and taught that it's a part of life, and it actually makes you stronger, right? And it makes you more resilient and more this, and more or less grooms you to be some type of superior force or strength or whatever, and in whatever it is you aspire to do. That may have been true at a time and may have worked out in our favor in some ways and shapes and forms, but we know the adverse of that and the trauma and damage that it can also do to you, to have to overcome experiences such as these that ultimately make you stronger on the other side, but actually broke you down first. And it's like, is that really the cycle of life that we want to pass on and have our children carry on in the name of strength and resilience and, survival of the fittest, which is really what it's an ascription to? Or is there something more, I don't know, like something more flourishing than that is just as sustainable, just as empowering, just as productive and prosperous, like success without struggle is that a curse? You know what I mean? Like, is that such a taboo term that we wouldn't want to pass that on through our legacy? And the idea would be the contempt that if you don't go through anything and you don't have any resistances, then you won't be equipped to handle what life has to throw at you, or what challenges you may encounter. But what if that is the point, to eliminate the challenges? Eventually, of course, again, with each generation, for there to be less and less challenges. Who the hell said there needed to be challenges anyway? Except for those that benefit most from imposing and projecting the challenges, and then to have us perpetuate that psychology until it becomes a part of our truth. Here it is, the psycho thriller of life that we've all been playing a part in. It's something about that here, and I know it is because it took me too long to get to it. It was like buried real deep, and I had to like dig. And thank you, Scorpio, because it's a mind fuck. It's like what we've been taught makes us better and stronger, maybe perhaps has just made things harder than what they need to be, harder than what they were ever supposed to be. To infuse competition and chaos and confusion and insecurity, instability, and to promote competition in ways that it's not even necessary to have, where everyone can have their happily ever after. And if that is true, then it indeed does eliminate the bad or sad endings eternally. Call me crazy, call me, too utopian, I suppose, but there's something about that here. There's something about that here, about really living in the limitlessness of prosperity and abundance, not just in the material sense, but absolutely in the spiritual essence of it. Because this is what matters most, as I said, whether you have a dime or, a billion of them, or I guess a trillion of them would make more, whatever it is, whether you come from a well-established bloodline that, that is nobility and royal or regal, or you have, established dynasties and legacies of businesses and, whatever. It's not so much the material aspect, even though it isn't. That's just what carries us on through this 3D world to help transmit and transfer the spirit of wealth. Because that's what really funds and fuels the material anyway. So if even here, if the mentality of scarcity and poverty and survival for survival's sake is eliminated, then all that does regenerate is the wealth, is the prosperity, is the optimism, is the limitlessness. And that regenerated over and over again ultimately extinguishes this trait here. It doesn't even exist anymore eventually, which means that if the next generation doesn't have to work so hard and so on and so forth, eventually it cultivates a reality and it curates a culture of ease. Why not? Why not? Because half of the issue is the struggle and the strife. That's what drives people to do some of the senseless things that they do out of survival mode, right? So if we eliminate that energy altogether, wouldn't there be more of a resonance of peace and fulfillment, which doesn't incite senseless competition? And in that case, advances the spirit of abundance. So again, there is no cause for chaos, confusion, for competition, for fighting, for scrapping to survive. There is no cause for any of it. something's happening here. And it may not happen overnight. It may not happen from myself to my son as clearly as I'm seeing it, maybe, but I can imagine for how I'm setting things up for him, that his children will have a much more dim glimpse of this energy in their lives, which means that their children, it'll probably be virtually non-existent. It'll literally be like a relic. Like, struggle? What is that? Not having enough to eat? Not being able to, do what you love? In what world? Why? Why would that ever be a thing? Not enough money to go around. Not enough homes for people to live in. People living on the street, that's preposterous. Like, that's what I'm seeing. And maybe I'm looking far ahead in the distance, or maybe I'm not. Maybe I'm not. Maybe it's actually more attainable in this breath of life than it seems to be. But no matter, regardless, the seeds that get planted now definitely make all the difference than not planting those seeds at all. So even if I wouldn't get to see it, the realization of it all, knowing that I'm planting the seeds in my son and in my legacy and anything that I connect to, again, that spirit of prosperity is what I fuse through everything. Hell, before I even have the prosperity, okay? It's the spirit that I'm championing for. And if that seed is well planted and well watered, it's bound to grow a harvest. It's bound to yield a harvest. And that harvest will yield, and so on and so forth. So if that's the due diligence that we all assume righteously, then indeed it could look like what I'm saying one day, where the weeds don't have a place to sprout anymore. There's no nourishment for them to grow. There's just too much living foliage and flowers and fruit and, produce, that the weeds don't even, they can't even survive. They get choked out from all the goodness. I don't know, but I'm just saying, like, it's stranger things have happened, I think. Let's see. Look, here's the seed. There's the little pumpkin seed right there. That is a product of this mentality and this ambition, and then gets to be the sower into its continuance. Wow, the Queen of Wands. Yep, that ambition and drive, and also the force behind the regeneration, that passion behind it. To see something that may even feel a bit over ambitious in the spirit of the Queen of Wands, but to be determined to achieve it anyway. You know what I mean? And only within your own power and resource. The Queen of Wands and the King of Wands, they can be super ambitious, but they can also, be very centric to what is within their own power as necessary, especially when you're evolved in these energies. And you're not just, blazing trails all over the place just because, like, you're very focused on what it is you can affect and transmute and in this case, alchemize as well. And you kind of blaze that trail relentlessly, is bound to make some type of change. And sometimes that's really just all you need, is for people to just stay in their lane and do their thing and not try to, you know, do everything. Somehow we're all doing that, all the things get done. And suddenly this utopian vision that I have doesn't really seem all of that unattainable. And look at this. This is like sewing into this poverty mindset to advance it to, again, this 10 of Pentacles reality. This is the seed that gets sown here that changes it forever. And also even the charity I'm seeing as well, that evolves the presence of poverty as it is to ultimately advance it or eliminate it altogether. Because the 6 of Pentacles, the 5 of Pentacles plus the 1 is the 6. Well, yeah, that's community sharing and caring, equal give and take, gifting, balance, each one teach one type of energy. To eliminate world suffering. That being the plan and the outlook for the future. Like a passionate initiation. Ambitious nonetheless, from when you survey the landscape as it is now, it seems like, you know, virtually impossible. He's got like this small world in his hand, right? And it's like, that's a whole lot of grounds to cover with just one bright idea. But like I said, one intention is all that it takes. One seed sown is all that it takes to make a major impact and to cover great grounds. Perhaps even literally change the world. Lil Michael changed the world as far as entertainment is concerned. And to give the Wayans credit, as far as TV and movies are concerned, they made a lot of people's careers. They established a lot of careers in entertainment for folks that wouldn't have had a chance otherwise. Jim Carrey, J-Lo, the Wayans dynasty, you know, beyond, what's his name? Keenen Ivory Wayans, to let the little brothers do their thing because Big Brother was already doing his thing. Robert Townsend, even Eddie Murphy, you know, they were kind of like a trio of creators at a time. Keenen Ivory Wayans, Eddie Murphy, and Robert Townsend. David Allen Greer, J-Lo, did I say J-Lo already? Rosie Perez, Tommy Davidson, like so many people through just in Living Color alone first, as most of those names, but then through the movies that they created and the stars that they made on the front end and the back end. You know, it's like they made a lot of people rich, or definitely stabilized a lot of people's livelihoods just on account of one bright idea, one pursuit of passion. So nothing small can be despised here, particularly in what you do. It matters. Yeah, look at this. New careers, new paths paved. experience of life, a new expression of life. And what I was going to say is, beyond the careers that they made, many people don't know. Here's the correlation between In Living Color and Michael Jackson. That In Living Color, the 1 year that they did a halftime show, where they did a halftime live show with Damon Wayans and David Allen Greer doing the men on football. I don't know if you, I'll post it in the comments, and I'll post it if I can find it. I think I can find a single clip of that, where they did like this halftime live show on, because I think it was on Sundays, and they had so many views of people that came from the football game during the halftime commercial break to watch their show, that the next year is when the NFL booked Michael Jackson to be the halftime performance. And that was a direct assault against anyone that would have ever come up against, because who's competing with Michael Jackson? And back then, you know, in his prime, and also it being something that they had never done before, booking, you know, a music artist as the entertainment. He was the first, and of course the biggest at the time. So it was their influence, pioneering an idea to captivate the Super Bowl audience at a premium time, that ultimately inspired the NFL to answer to that by booking Michael Jackson as the first superstar act during the halftime. And then the rest is history, because they've been doing it every year since. But that was the first. So, you know, here it is, pioneering major moves here, right up under the Empress, where you don't even know what you're doing could be creating an entire movement, a whole new way of life or existence or creation itself, like literally creating something that never existed before. It almost giving birth to something that seems innocent, harmless, low impact, and suddenly it completely consumes creation or saturates creation in a way that you never ever intended to. You just having a baby, or building a business, or expressing your creativity, or championing for your beliefs and your what's the right word, like your beliefs and your goals and morals, and speaking your truth, sharing your talent, like, doesn't really seem like much, but lo and behold, and here it is, the King of Pentacles. Very valuable, extremely. A one-man show type of energy. Wow. Where if it wasn't for one man, in this case, we could call him Keenan Ivory Wayans as far as the Wayans are concerned. In the Jackson's case, hell, arguably you could say it was Joe Jackson that saw the promise and potential in his children and beat it out of them. Allegedly. Oh, God, you see his hand raised over here, the magician? No, I'm just joking. But arguably so, of course, Michael carried the torch, no doubt, and took it to a whole nother level. But Papa Joe saw that promise and expanded it, invested in it. So I don't know what we're talking about here, but it's something powerful, and you must know what it is for you if you can relate to this message. It could be something, wow, and it landed upright and face up. Look at this. And I'm not even going to go any further. I'm going to stop there, even though I was going to go another row. But I'm going to stop it right there. The Lovers. The highest honor, the highest expression in your anointing, in your gifting, expressing your authentic self, but on a supreme level, you know. This is aspiring to the greatness that already exists within you, but cultivating that. Curating is really what is given, like a curation. Well, I guess cultivating that identity and curating that reality, the reality that's attached to that expression, perhaps, which is the 10 of Cups, doing what you love, doing what comes natural, doing what is most impactful and impressionable, even inspirational to others, but certainly to yourself, but it has an external effect and impact. And look at this, almost missed this, that this is like a back to Eden vibe as well with the Lovers, the original plan for man, meaning man and woman, of course, but for humankind to be in this transparent existence of their natural and spiritual selves in covenant with those two entities. Without inhibition, without resistance. Consider all that I said about, you know, this utopian experience and this being really the expression of that. You know, definitely being the expression of that, to live a life with ease, to evolve into an existence, because if it ever existed before, none of us can remember it. It's so distant of a memory, you know, even in our past life regressions, you still wouldn't be able to really sense, you know, it's so scrubbed from our muscle memory at this point, where, like I said, the more prevalent subscription is to suffering, you know, and it's like the treat, or, you know, the exception is the bliss and the happiness and the peace and the love and, you know, the exuberant experience of life. But what we know very well is the suffering. That's one thing we all have in common in some way, shape, or form. And that's what we ultimately have been passing down as a reality ever since it was introduced as more or less an infection to this, I'll say even an insurrection to this easeful existence. And it may have taken lifetimes it may still take, you know, before it is fully realized, and at the point from its shift, have taken many lifetimes to revolve back into that state. But I feel like that's what we're talking about here. And maybe it gets to be more of an embraced concept of possibility than it is just a fairy tale, to really perhaps even accelerate the realization. If we stop more or less like disregarding it as like a utopian concept, like something that sounds good but is not likely, you know, based on what you can look around and see, and really start aspiring to it, you know, as the Fool does, like almost delusionally, you know what I mean? Like relentlessly, faithfully, recklessly in some ways, or with reckless abandon of the old, which would be the suffering, you know, perhaps it gets to be much sooner than any of us at this point in time would ever anticipate. And that's just me outdoing my utopianism that much more, not just to proclaim that it is so, regardless of whether or not I get to see it, but that it could actually be so much sooner than later. The fact that this came up, and I didn't even really connect to that at first, but the lovers, that's like back to Eden, Adam and Eve vibes, but before, you know, conceptually speaking, the sin. Ooh, that's what it is. Ooh. And I've said this before, but for me, and generally, even by definition, sin is not what it has been romanticized or even demonized to be, religiously or even, you know, just conventionally. Sin is separation from your supreme self. That's all it really is. You can you know, round that out to say it's a separation from God, but sometimes even saying it that way still feels like, you know, that void is too expansive to really conceptualize in a way that feels personal, in a way that you feel like there's something that you can effectively change or do about it. But in the most practical terms, it's you being in separation with yourself at your best. That's all sin is. So whether it's in behavior, whether it's mentality, whether it's in feeling, or I don't know, like so many things that can kind of come in between us being and doing and having our absolute best. That space in between is the sin. Not even so much the behavior itself, but just merely the void between, and ultimately the void that we allow to grow between ourselves and our supreme. And this time, you know, conceptually speaking, and, you know, spiritually, it's a matter of forging that direct connection and covenant again between the spirit and the man, where there is no separation, there is no division, there is no void. There is one with the other. And that's the point of return. The point of return and the point of no returning back to strife, struggle, and suffering. Because it will no longer be considered a necessary evil once we've returned to the saving grace of our own divine self-awareness, where there is no necessity for that level of evil, because there is no space for it to fester. Remember I said the weeds can't survive? Yeah, it can't survive in that space where there is no space between you and the divine. Wow. That is amazing. Oh, this is back here again. No way. back to where we started. What's on the bottom? The Knight of Pentacles. I would say it could probably be more like this. Again, the advanced offering. So we're getting there. It may be a slow burn, so it seems, but like I was saying before, the advancement is in the mentality, because for as long as this offer becomes more and more advanced, it's like grown up from the page now to the Knight. And we also saw the King of Pentacles. As long as it continues to evolve, to grow, to be reinvested, it's only a matter of time before this debt of suffering, at least by our mental inscription, is fully paid. Consider that we're still, theoretically gleaning from the original sin as it is projected, and that frequency is what's been recycled for lifetimes and generations, on and on and on. Well, when is the debt satisfied? When you say so. That's when. So for some, like I said, that could be right now between you and your kin and your legacy and your progeny. Or God bless them, I hope thereafter they get it if you don't. But the debt has been paid in full. We're still carrying the responsibility, bearing the labor and the with this Five of Pentacles, literally carrying it on our shoulders, of which was probably in so many ways, shapes and forms, a projected debt anyway. You know what I mean? That wasn't even for creation itself to bear. And we could get into that in the story as it is alone, just at face value. The sheer projection of guilt and shame and persecution, of which initially God did not incite. It was an intrusion and an inference that was made, and then assumed and asserted by humanity, that they must be guilty, that they must be shameful, and that they should hide from God, therefore creating the void that we've been living, in the pits of for just as long, if not even before that version of the story was created. So I think it's far time for us to write that one off, don't you think? As long as you say so and I say so, then that already starts the chain of activation that ultimately somebody's generation is going to live debt-free in spirit and in truth. And that's where I'm investing my energy personally. And I definitely pray that I'm not alone in that ambition. All right, so I'm gonna leave it there. That was amazing. Wow. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. Until next time, as always, I leave you with peace.